What's up, guys? How you doing? I'm Paul.
I'm Morgan.
In today's video, we had a lot of pushback. There were videos made in regards to a recent video that we did. It was our latest video, what we wish we knew about
It
sex. It was
wasn't
no,
our latest
it was our
video.
latest video on sex.
Okay, yes.
Thank you for correcting me. Yeah, and the amount of pushback that particularly I received was so vast that I felt like let's go ahead and address it. In particular, something that happened, the latest response video, if you will, to some comments I made. It was just like, let's just go ahead and address this. And honestly, I got a lot to bring up today. How are you feeling? Just how are you doing?
I've got a cute baby in my arms, so that's good.
Yeah, no, I'm super glad you're here. Are you feeling okay about everything?
I have some thoughts as well,
Yeah.
so we'll see.
All right. Love it. Um Morgan, I feel like this is such like a unique vibe
Uh-huh.
for us that it's like weird to even say, all right, guys, go ahead and subscribe. So
But subscribe.
yeah, still subscribe, even in an unusual subject matter as this video. So
Yes.
Morgan, yeah, you just chime in. Like, obviously, because the intense pushback and even the hate is targeted more at me, I will probably be doing more of the talking. So I'll kind of like look over at you, jump in, cut me off. I tend to talk sometimes too long. Please, by all means, just cut me off if you
Okay.
got stuff. But let's just start with this. Uh, like, we posted that, like, we created the live stream, and the very first comment to jump into the pre-live stream was this, and I thought it was just appropriate to kick things off. It says, "Oof, this will be interesting. I think there was some pretty valid criticism of the whole humble yourself and have sex comment Paul made. I watched Sheila Gregory's video and it was very good." So that's just to kind of get you guys in, like, oh, you might be like, wait, Sheila Gregory, who's that? What did she say in her video? You just kind of called out Paul. He said, humble yourself and have sex. What does that mean? We're about to get into all of it, or a lot of it. And what I kind of wanted to kick things off and say is I did want to humble myself and say, guys, I would be lying if I were to get on here and be like, Morgan has had it super easy being married to me. Like, I'm not a perfect husband. I have growing to do as a 33-year-old man. Like, I still have plenty of growing to do. And the first years of our marriage in particular, early on, they were not easy years. They were very difficult. They were challenging, and praise the Lord for his faithfulness and just sticking with us, helping us grow. And now in year 7,
We're working on year 7, yes.
like year 7, year 6, year 5, they have been so much better because of, again, like the growth that the Lord has brought us both into.
Mm-hmm.
They're just getting better and better.
Amen.
Would you contest? Would you agree?
Yes, I would. And I've
Love it.
had lots of growing to do as well.
Oh, babe. Okay, so that's the first. Yeah, emotionally, I wanted to say that too. Like, growth emotionally, and sometimes like emotional growth, personality growth. You don't really think about those things pre-marriage. It's just like, oh, this is just who I am. But suddenly you bring that stuff into a marriage, and it can be challenging.
True.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to say that criticism is fine, you guys. It really is. So, there were, some criticism is fine. There was criticism in a few YouTube videos that were made, perhaps criticism from Reddit and stuff. There's a place for it, and we're going to be addressing some. But and as you guys know, we don't respond to all the hate. We don't respond to every hate video or pushback video that we get.
Right.
But this felt appropriate.
Yes.
Okay, so let me start before I start playing some clips. A few comments. If any of you guys, if any of you all went back and watched our "What We Wish We Knew About Sex" video more recently and looked at the comments, it's brutal.
I I've not looked at them
And
ever.
it's always interesting because our audience for the most part is like so supportive. And so suddenly if I'm like one day responding to comments on a recent video and I see like a lot of negative ones, it typically tells me there was a, you know, a criticism video made.
Right.
Hey baby. Or a the Reddit haters just started coming after us and maybe making posts about us, whatever. That happened to our sex video. Here's a few of the top comments right now, just to give you guys an idea of like, well, what's happening? Why are you getting pushback? Here's some of the pushback. One of the comments that was high up said, "My parents are divorced. My father was exactly like this. Me and my mother advise you to run."
Oh.
Someone said, "Expecting sex when your partner is mad at you is not in any way normal. This is so sad." That's got 1.5 thousand thumbs up on it.
Oh my goodness.
Um,
What in the world?
Someone said, "You do not owe anyone sex, no matter what. Even if you are married, you don't owe your partner sex. You are also not entitled to sex from your partner. Sex is not a mandatory part of a relationship at all." And the final one I screenshotted says, "Paul, you should get anger management therapy. And
Whoa.
and Morgan, girl, sex can be good if you find the right partner, not one that feels entitled to pleasure."
I'm so glad that I do not read these comments on a regular basis or really ever. I'd go insane. I would literally lose my mind.
It can be tough. All right, before we go any further, and I'm not just like laughing, like I'm about to just throw, give one of these John Cena's to all these haters.
Well, I
Like,
might.
you are welcome to respond however you want because I am anything but a controlling husband. Am I right?
Watch the
Oh,
baby's
I
head.
just- I get accused, you guys, of being a controlling husband. So if I make jokes about it, the pain goes away from all the haters. No, but before we move before we move further, I wanted to play the first clip from the Gregory mother and daughter duo. Yeah.
There have been several videos that have been made in response to that video of ours. This one specifically is from a mother and a daughter. I guess they're believers. From the mom's Instagram, it seems like she's a Christian, I think, author and something. I don't know what her bio says, but
Well, she I had
podcaster.
someone comment in our last video pretty quick, or just one of our recent videos, and was like, "Hey, Paul, have you watched this video from?" Yeah, because I think she's kind of known as being like a Christian podcaster author, and that's when it's suddenly like, oh, it's no longer just the haters, the atheists, because there's like a girl that calls herself a therapist. I don't know if she is, that makes videos against us, and she's made 2 videos kind of responding to our sex advice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, recently. But this is like, oh, this is a Christian mother-daughter duo. And the title of their podcast, their video, and I actually linked it, guys. I always encourage, I'm not just trying to like get on here, pull little clips and snippets and respond to them. You can go watch their whole video. They start talking about us about midway through. And I also am linking our What We Wish We Knew About Sex video, so you guys can go watch that in its entirety, because some people are just taking little clips and then mauling us. Right. Nevertheless, it is interesting. They titled their video "Scary Body Language and Telling on Yourself." I wonder who they're talking about there. Did I tell on myself through my scary body language? Well, let's see. Let's play their first
Or did
clip.
I?
Or did, well, it's a great point. And this is, Sheila Ray Gregory. And she actually has a daughter that was a pretty big Christian YouTuber that I don't know if she's still making videos, Katie Gregory.
Okay.
Who's now Katie Emerson. Some of you guys probably know who she is. All right, first clip.
But here's the problem. He gives an example of how he brought whipped cream on their honeymoon and he made her cry. Yeah. And she agrees. And I just want you to notice her body language as she's talking in this clip.
Don't expect the sexiness and the adventuresome, crazy, awesome stuff to go from 0 to 100 right out of the gate. Realize that is going to take some time. And if I had realized that before getting married, I wouldn't have brought out the whipped cream on our honeymoon. It was a bad idea. It made Morgan cry.
Yes, it did. We were like 3 days into our marriage in Miami, Florida on our honeymoon, and he brings out a can of whipped cream, and I'm like,
and here's the thing. It sounds take that however you want. You're shocked, you're appalled, you're laughing. But in all reality, in my mind, it was, I'm finally married. Now I welcome everything in the kitchen sink into our sex life. Let's go wild. And Morgan's like,
I'm like, bro, I barely know you.
Now, Becca, what was she doing?
She was laughing.
She was talking about crying,
Yeah.
but she was laughing.
Yeah. It's so funny that he made her cry and she was traumatized and all that stuff.
And I noticed this and I thought, well, that's kind of odd because this clip appears at the beginning of the video. But if you watch the whole thing through, and it's about 25 minutes, what you'll notice is that over and over and over again, whenever she is talking about being disappointed or hurt or angry or anything, she laughs.
Yeah. Anytime there's any negative emotion towards her husband or because of her husband, she glosses over it with laughter. And that's a very common, it's called the fawn response.
It's called the fond response.
I think it's fawn.
Okay, let me just speak for a moment. I am so freaking tired of people online thinking they're some expert scientist, brilliant person reading the body language of a person through a video, which I believe in her video, I think you mentioned this, that she said this is the only video she's ever watched of ours. So like she didn't even do her research.
Well, she made it pretty clear that she hasn't watched many, and I think she may have said this is the only video she's watched.
Okay, so like she clearly isn't like studying to see really like, oh, maybe this is just like how Morgan Olagus is. She laughs literally at everything, has her entire life, has constantly been made fun of, judged, mocked, whatever, because I laugh at everything because I think things are funny and whatever.
The haters have made comments like, is she high?
Are you high? No, I'm just joyful. Sorry. And I'm sorry that I'm laughing at a story that I think is pretty hilarious. Okay, yes, in the moment of our honeymoon, it wasn't funny to me, but looking back, I think it's hilarious. And it's so annoying to me that someone who calls himself a Christian is going to act like they are this like brilliant scientist reading my body language, and they know I'm truly, deeply disturbed and in a dangerous situation. I'm just so sick of it. Like, we've dealt with this, I feel like all of our YouTube career, of people being like, look at the body language, look at how she's, and it's so annoying to me. So there's that. That's my rant.
We're about to, thank you, Morgan. I seriously, I welcome that. You know, I welcome your input. Obviously, we're about to get to something that they say is even more serious, and even though they bring the body language up again, but I do agree with you, Morgan. This kind of reminded me, and that's why it kind of hurt. It stung more than if it's just like, you know, the atheists or the whatever coming after us. It's like, no, this is like a Christian author.
A Christian mom. She's got daughters. Like,
and so what stung is it reminded me of like, you know, that video that we actually showed a while back from some, you know, the haters, and they like, it was like a 3-minute video showing, look at Morgan's progression of how joyful she used to be in the videos to now how like sad she is, and it's because of Paul. And they literally just showed like 10-second clips of like intros that they chose.
Yeah. And they chose like an intro where I literally was crying because I was having a rough day.
They're like, this is where she is now because of her husband.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it felt like. I think, the reading the body language just, to me, isn't real helpful particularly maybe when you haven't been studying the person for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, you know, it is what it is. You know, this can so easily, before we get to the kind of their next clip, it can so easily devolve into, okay, you're going to like criticize us. Well, let's pick apart who you are. I don't want to do that, but I do think it does make sense to say, all right, you know, this is a Christian mother and daughter duo. Who are they? Who are these people that are criticizing us? Let's just, who do they say they are publicly? Let's not like dive into maybe they're this or maybe they're this. And you actually pointed it out, the daughter's Instagram. And I'm not going to like screenshot it and pull it up here, but it is interesting. So her name's Rebecca. She's married, so she goes by a different last name. She does have she, her, so she has her pronouns in her bio. She says, just a girl standing in front of the evangelical church asking them to please stop promoting abusive theology, peace sign. Great, hashtag great sex rescue, greatsexrescue.com. So,
which is like the book I think her and her mom wrote, or her mom wrote, or whatever. She had something to do with it.
So that kind of tells a little bit about just her, where she's coming from, the headspace that she's in. Let's go ahead and play, because she's about to get into, again, what they call the heavier criticism. And it is maybe a little more weighty than just the speculation of the body language. And I did make a note on here that the mother did send you a message on Instagram.
Yeah, I don't know when it correlates to like when they posted this video, but the mom did send me a message on Instagram basically just saying like she sees red flags and if I want help, I don't know what I would want help for. Like, I think she was kind of insinuating, like, want help getting out of my marriage or just escaping, which is a common message that I get from people. Once again, very, very frustrating that it's coming from a Christian woman who's been married for 30 years. And she's offering help for whatever. And she didn't necessarily say help getting out of your marriage, but it was not a great message in my opinion. I was very frustrated by it. It was not helpful. I did not feel seen or heard or understood. I felt very belittled, and I know that she was sending it hopefully genuinely like wanting to help me, but that's not how it came across. So there you have it. I didn't respond. I didn't open it.
Well, oh, interesting.
I was just kind of over it.
Interesting. Enough kind of like dwelling on them, because I want, you know, this mother-daughter duo, their criticisms to be more of what we talk about than them in particular. And so the next criticism is where like so many of the people had already brought it up and were piling on. And I would say the main criticism of our video. So what clip we're about to play now has to do with the comments I made about having sex, going ahead and having sex even when you're in an argument and it has not been resolved yet. Should I say more on it or just play the clip?
Just play the clip. If you guys really want to know all of it, you can go watch our video.
And actually, this clip I'm about to play is them. I just wanted to make sure this is like the clip that they used of us. So I thought I would just play the clip they used of us, and then they're going to respond to it, just to make sure we're all kind of keeping things 100. Here it is.
And then this is how he responds.
Yep.
Like, okay, Morgan's mad at me, or something happened. We're not going to have sex. I was expecting it, and now I just want to, like, it hits you in a way that I don't think I'd ever experienced.
Mm-hmm.
The feeling of being let down, of sad, of upset. I just want to go get in my car and just drive. I just want to not be here. I'm angry, like literally so many emotions, because I think it's a combination of sex is just so pleasurable, but it's also so intimate and so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly that's being taken away.
Yeah, it definitely, like, if Paul and I get into an argument and sex doesn't end up being on the table that night or whatever, in the first few years of our marriage, I knew that it hit Paul way harder than it hit me. Like, I would just roll over and be like, good night.
So you knew.
Like, of course I knew.
So you were aware? And you just rolled over and
Yeah, I wasn't having sex with you. I was mad at you. Now, I will say there are going to be times in your
Wow.
marriage where you guys are mad at each other. You should still
Wow.
have sex. But sometimes you shouldn't. Or sometimes it's just impossible because you're just like,
well, so maybe that's more of a guy thing, but I think it could definitely, be similar to the woman, and there are different levels of sex drives, and that can fluctuate.
well, yeah, like for me, I was less sad that we were not gonna have sex, but sad that like we just got into a fight and like, oh, we had a really good day all day long, and now we just got into a fight. What the heck? Like, okay, good night. Like, I'm gonna sleep this off. We'll figure it out tomorrow.
Well, Morgan, I will say, hearing you so brazenly say you just ignored my emotions, even though you were aware of them, there were times when I would be laying there just so hurt, realizing, okay, I get it, we're in a fight or whatever, it's valid, but man, it would mean a lot to me if you were to just kind of roll over and like touch my arm and say like, I know that we're upset at each other.
Oh, you know how
I get it.
absolutely
I
hard
get
that
it.
is
I
when
get
you've
it.
been a butthead to me.
And I could have done the same thing sometimes, but there's just that
Exactly.
thing of like, I don't want to budge on this. I don't want to budge. But man, just for you guys watching, maybe married people getting ready to be married, if you can just humble yourself and turn over to your partner and scratch their back and say, hey, we may not get this worked out tonight, but I love you and let's go ahead and have sex.
And we have done
And
that.
we've definitely done that.
Yes.
I know.
So I do here in just a moment want to expound and maybe clarify the last part of that video about just in the middle of a argument, it hasn't been completely resolved. It hasn't been resolved at all. And maybe you were scheduled because like say you schedule sex every other night or every 3 days and it's like that's your sex night. I'm going to clarify a little bit. Maybe even apologize a little bit, maybe not. But before I do, Morgan, I think we just play their response to that. Again, to me, their response, it's not just like, oh, we're going to rebuttal this duo. They represent so many of the other responses. Anything you want to say before I play their response?
Wait.
Yeah.
I think it was great advice. Continue.
Wow. Morgan Olligus, ladies and gentlemen.
So I'm really curious if anyone else noticed how when Morgan admitted that she knew what Paul was feeling, did you notice how Paul immediately like squared his shoulders?
Yeah.
And his whole muscles went tense.
Yeah.
And he just started looking at her. It was less of the whole way before. It was kind of like bouncing to Morgan and the camera and like kind of looking around, and his body language was really loose. All of a sudden, it got like, quite frankly, it got like a cat stalking prey kind of thing. Like it was like he was just honed in. Like we are now against each other.
Yeah.
And that was when I saw that for the first time, I was like, holy crap.
Yeah. And
that
again,
is scary.
We are not the only ones to see this.
No.
The comment section is full of people saying, wow, that was a huge red flag.
Yeah. So
that was a huge red flag.
Yeah, but the idea that then after he does this and he kind of regains his composure, he regains his camera face again. You know what his response to all this is he says that every now and then you should humble yourself and just have sex anyway. He says humble yourself. So he learns that his wife was in such turmoil that she couldn't bring herself to having sex with him. And his response was not, yeah, we had a lot to work through, and I'm so glad we're in a better place now. His response is humble yourself and have sex anyway.
Yeah.
To people in that scenario. He doesn't say, husbands, learn that, you need to recognize that connection's important. And if you're not connecting, then it's not her fault if she doesn't want to jump in bed with you.
And just to clarify, like I like found a clip of their response. They said a lot more. That was like a minute after they had already been talking. But
The cat stalking its prey.
it's funny. I went
going
back.
to shred me to pieces.
So I do want to take this seriously. I want to take what they said, especially kind of the latter part of that seriously.
I'm
Of
sorry.
the
It's hard for me to take it serious.
of the humbling yourself and going and having sex. But it was interesting. Again, they're talking about the body language. They said that when you responded and I realized that you knew all along or whatever, that I squared my shoulders and tensed up.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
No, I did not notice that at all.
But I guess because they are body language experts, they can notice stuff that we don't even realize. But no, so Morgan, here's where I do maybe want to backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
I know what I said on that clip, and I'm just kind of thinking back through our marriage, through our relationship, and I think where I want to pump the brakes on what I said a little bit is I think some people could watch that clip and be like, okay, Paul's saying go ahead and have sex, wife, go ahead and have sex no matter what, even if you're in the middle of a really intense argument. And what I maybe would like to backtrack a little bit is say, I think there are arguments, I think back on some of ours that were maybe so intense or so emotional that the thought of having sex, particularly for the woman, for Morgan, and it can go both ways. There's different sex drives, but typically it's going to be, the male maybe wanting it more than the woman in some situations or more often. I think I wish that I would have said some arguments, use your discernment and go ahead and just say, let's wait and have sex tomorrow.
And we did that. We've done that plenty of times. And I said that. I said there are arguments, though, that's just like going to be way too hard to do that. But there are plenty of arguments that, yeah, you can set aside your pride. And something that you mentioned a few days ago while we were talking about this was like, or maybe it was earlier today, I don't know, was like the whole idea of why we would maybe encourage you as a married couple to go ahead and have sex with one another, even when you're in an argument or a disagreement, is to, one, just remind each other that we're a team. Like, we're not against one another.
That's
we're just
good.
working through something to figure it out. But no matter what, like, we're on the same team. And it's a good reminder to go ahead and have sex and remind one another of that.
I love that. And so that's like the other half. I should have given that caveat. Now the other half, and this is where I'm going to receive, I welcome the hate. I welcome the pushback. I stand by it. There are plenty of arguments that are not going to be resolved, and I would still say you go ahead and have sex. And I agree with Morgan. To me, going ahead and having sex, even though you're not completely on the same page, if you're able to do that and the argument's not so emotionally taxing that you just can't imagine it, if you can go ahead and do it, I think it will quicken the resolve of the argument. You'll find yourself after sex, and that's just one of the beautiful ways that God created sex, and the endorphins and hormones and stuff it releases. It bonds you guys. So it will quicken the resolve of the argument. And like you said, if you're able, even when you're in an argument with your spouse, you're still on the same team. You're still married. You're still going to choose to love one another tomorrow and the next day, even if this argument takes a while to figure out. So if you're actually able, if you're mature enough, yeah, I said it. I'm probably going to get hate for that. How dare Paul say, no, if you're mature enough to go ahead and have sex, even if the argument hasn't been resolved, what was it?
You'll be blessed because you'll be reminded.
Yeah, you're on the same team. In the midst of an argument, you're on the same team. So to me, that just shows, hey, still got some work to do to get on the same page and figure this out. But because we're on the same team and I love you, yeah, I can humble myself and go ahead and have sex. And that can go either way.
And there are plenty of times where I have told Paul, like, I know that it was our sex night, but like, I just can't tonight. I'm not emotionally connected to you. I'm very hurt or whatever. And he 1000% respects that. So let's just make that very clear. You weirdos who think that he's a cat stalking his prey.
There's guys, honestly, there's some more in their video of them laying certain things out that's pretty interesting, some comparisons they make, but we're not going to go into all that. I want to read a comment that someone made that honestly, like, was such a blessing to Morgan and I. And then I want to play a reel that they actually posted where they bring up something else that I want to address. But this was a comment Morgan actually found. Morgan, I'll read it. Actually, let me just pull it up on my phone too, so I have it here. Someone commented this on Sheila Gregory's Instagram reel and said, I watched the video and listened to your podcast episode. I think what is most harmful is telling the world someone is being sexually abused when you've never talked to them. I didn't see anything wrong with their video or their other content. They are very funny, whoop, whoop, and biblically minded. And I hope when my girls are older, they look up to influencers who actually love Jesus and follow the Bible. My husband and I often talk about sex in the beginning of our marriage with laughter, even at the hard things, because we've come so far. And that's, Morgan and I are right there. That's what I got from the video. I don't think it's good to make an assessment on the health of someone's marriage from a 20-minute video. They also weren't giving advice. They were just sharing their personal experiences. And I will say, like, we were sharing our personal experiences, but I still give advice. So you don't have to take my advice, but I still give advice. Some of it, at least some of it was advice. Much of what they said, my husband and I can totally relate to, and our marriage is in no way abusive. I find the comment, poor woman, when talking about Morgan, very condescending. I just wanted to add some different feedback to the conversation, not trying to sound antagonistic. Tone gets lost through text. Let's play. And Morgan, I mean, to me, that just blessed me so much because she like came to bat for us. It didn't even sound like she was like a P&M
right
part of the P&M fam, but that was just so well worded.
Yeah.
Let's play this reel that they posted.
Okay.
So shout out to that person. If you end up watching, thank you. That was a blessing.
Yes.
This is where, please, evangelical community, let's stop with idolizing Christian young celebrities who really have no credentials for teaching, because they are the ones who are teaching our kids what relationships are supposed to look like, far more so than Emerson Eggerichs or Gary Thomas or Shanti Feldon or whatever. Paul and Morgan, and all of you listening can probably think of more. I'm not going to name them, but other people with huge Instagram and YouTube following, where the only credentials they have is that they're
married.
In the evangelical world. They tend to be good looking and they're good behind the camera. And that's it. And a lot of them are setting our kids up for not recognizing what is truly unhealthy and normalizing what is unhealthy. And we need to stop.
Woo! Sheila is.
To me, it's once again, it's sad that this Christian woman would encourage teens and young adults and whatever to stay away from our channel, to stay away from whoever other similar channels, Nate and Sutton, I don't know, like whatever. And I'm just like, again, you're this Christian woman. Like, we're all on the same team here, I thought. It doesn't feel that way with her. She feels very much like, no! Yeah, I don't know.
Morgan,
it just...
I hear you, and I could, like, understand how it would be painful. Like, I'll be honest, like, it was painful to watch however much I did watch of their podcast episode. But again, I don't want to dwell too much on that. We know, like, there are, even within the Christian community, there's a spectrum. There's a spectrum when it comes to relationships.
Right.
She wrote a book about, Christian sex. Her daughter pushes back on the evangelical stuff. That's the lane that they're in. I did, what did they say at the end of that reel? Oh, just like the expert thing.
Yeah.
She maybe has, I'm assuming she wouldn't make that comment unless she had some degrees and whatnot. And she said, more people are watching people like us than listening to advice from the experts, I guess. And I will say, I like Gary Thomas, man. He has blessed me. But again, I agree with you. I don't think there needs to be this like warfare. you have to be listening to Gary Thomas and not Paul and Morgan. I would say, yeah, like we're not experts. So I would caution anyone, which we do pretty regularly, from just buying into even the experts. Okay. Even the experts from buying into their advice, hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Okay. So I guess she maybe would consider herself an expert. I would be cautious, as you can tell, like by what we're saying and that we're disagreeing with some of her stuff. Like I would be very cautious to just buy into what her and her daughter are saying, hook, line, and sinker. But be cautious buying into us. There's only one expert that we would say you're totally safe with, and that's Jesus Christ and the Holy Bible. Outside of that, be cautious.
Take
But
everything with a grain of salt and take it all back to scripture.
yeah, I did think it was also interesting just while I'm thinking about it, like she mentioned how so many of the comments on our video, she said there was a comment that there were multiple comments that had more thumbs up than the video itself. So she's kind of like putting herself in agreement with these comments. And you guys know, like, so many of these comments are coming literally from like the haters on Reddit and the atheist channels, and she's like setting herself up in agreement with those. To me, that's
I'm like,
actually a worse place to be. But Morgan, a question I wanted to ask, kind of going back to like how much hate that I've gotten, and I again kind of backtracked a little bit, apologized a little bit, if you will, but nevertheless, like just the question of how dare a husband or a wife, you could go both ways, but a husband suggest you still go ahead and have sex in the middle of an unresolved argument. And I just wanted to bring up, like, what does it look like to love each other sacrificially in a marriage relationship? If there's something that is very important to one spouse, should the other spouse, and this is a question I'm genuinely asking, not make it a priority for themselves? If sex is really important to the guy or the girl, because I've heard of relationships where the girl desires sex and the husband, maybe he's looking at PORN, so he's disengaged. Maybe he's traveling a ton or obsessed with work or just not as into it. Sex drive is not as into it. And so he's actually kind of depriving her. That can happen. But should there not be an emphasis, if it's, say, the husband and wife here, for the wife to try to even maybe go out of, I'm just not necessarily feeling it because we're in a little bit of an argument. Is there not still a place? And I know now I'm like getting into dangerous territory, but should that not be something, the sacrificial love that a husband should show a wife and a wife should show her husband? If the emotional connection, which the Gregory's brought up, is super important to the wife, should the husband not look to see how he can satisfy his wife in that way?
Mm-hmm. My answer is yes. We, as husband and wives, need to be looking to how can we love our husband, how can we love our wife. And yeah, like marriage is a continual learning process, but sacrifice process. It's we're constantly being refined. We're constantly laying down our own lives and picking up our cross. And like, to the world, that's gonna sound atrocious, and to a lot of Christians who don't want to see what the Bible says about marriage, about the wife's role, the husband's role, it's gonna sound atrocious. But it really is a beautiful thing when you're walking in the way God designed marriage. And I don't know, like, we could sit here and try and explain that for forever, and a bazillion people still aren't going to get it. And that's fine, because I know that we have a healthy, beautiful, godly marriage, and Paul knows that too, and the people around us know that, and walking with us, our family, our friends, the true P&M fam, you guys know that, and that's what matters, and that's that.
So can I just say, Morgan, that guys, you don't have to watch our advice. You don't have to click on the videos when we give our experience and our advice on sex. But I just want to say, expect more sex videos in the future, even though we are not licensed experts. Expect it, baby. Hey, give a thumbs up if you're happy to hear that. Just give a little thumbs up. The Gregory mother-daughter duo, we love you, and we hope the best for you guys. I prayed for you guys before this, and I genuinely do desire to see good things for you all. And the Lord, honestly, like you hear it through Scripture, the Lord judge between us. Lord, you judge between us. You look at our hearts. You look at our lives. You look at the advice we're giving, and then you speak to the audience and give them discernment and discretion. What's lining up with your word? Amen. There you go, guys. Comment below. Let us know. Keep the comments. I saw Timmy in the live chat say, like, keep the comments respectful. If they're just being a jerk and you're just being hateful, no place for that. But if you give a respectful comment, even if you're disagreeing or siding with so-and-so, I welcome that. Let us know where you're at in the comments with everything that was shared on this video. Any last words, Morgan?
Stop trying to read people's body language over a camera. I'm so sick of it.
It hasn't been very helpful. All right, guys, we love you all, seriously. And just shout out to the patrons. When you get as much like hate as we do, particularly I'm thinking of like, the Reddit stuff and how we could literally say anything on this channel or in this video. And I can expect in the back of my mind, get ready, because they're going to come after us. And I'm going to get messages. I got, I think, 2 Instagram DMs today saying, Paul, how could you do this when your wife is at home with the baby? And someone said, Paul, how could you go on a train ride? Because I don't know if you guys follow me on Instagram. I went on a short 45-minute train ride with my brother and some of my family. How dare you on a train ride when your wife is at home taking care of your son? Pretty much like, you absent father, you're no help anyway. And then I hopped on Reddit and I saw that Reddit had made a post saying Paul goes on a train ride with his brother's family, like a train ride vacation. And people were just piling on. And it's like, guys,
it was a 45-minute trip. Plus, I was at my parents' for the weekend visiting them with Luca.
They're ruthless, and so no matter what, so it's a tough place to be. All that to say, thank you for our patrons and just the love and support you guys give, and then just the PNM fam. Huge deal.
Love you guys.
Love you all. All right, talk to you guys very soon. Be blessed. Have hope.
And be free. If you're in the live chat, we'll be right back.
Hey guys, as you may have noticed, we get very few brand deals, which is why our patrons, the names you see here, are so important.
You guys really are the lifeblood of this ministry. We could not do this without you all. If you believe in this content and you want to partner with us on Patreon, click the link below or just go to patreon.com/Paulandmorganshow.